Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my kitchen today. We're in the home of Chef Jeff and my beautiful wife Amy, who's got the camera. The kids are at Bible school and they want their favorite meal of goulash. It's a family favorite, but we wanted to lighten it up a little bit and make it a little healthier. Goulash traditionally has lots of ground beef, lots of cheese. It's very thick and hearty and sometimes a little pasty, so we're going to kind of lighten it up a touch. The first thing we're going to do is I've got a nice big stock pot on the stove over here, and I'm going to crank that up and get that pretty hot because I want to get this oil nice and hot. Extra virgin olive oil, of course. We're going to do about a teaspoon, and we're going to let that just heat up in there a little bit. And then I've got some veggies over here we're going to add. Instead of doing some ground beef, we're actually going to use some mushrooms. Portobello mushrooms, button mushrooms have lots of kind of beefy characteristics to them, and when you cook them down, they actually taste a little bit like beef, especially the portobello mushrooms. They're nice and hearty. I've also got some diced celery, about a cup of diced celery. That's going to give us some good fiber and add a little color and a little body to the goulash. I've got one nice fine ripe and whole tomato that I diced up. And I've got right here half of a green pepper, which I'm just going to take the seeds out and we're going to dice that up a little bit. And what we're going to do is just cut it into strips. And pass the knife. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to kind of keep everything about bite size, so when we're trying to get it on our spoon and on our fork, it's easy to eat. And we want it to cook at the same time too. This is something that's going to go together pretty fast. So if we cut them into smaller pieces like this, they're going to cook a lot quicker. Okay? So we're also going to do the same thing with an onion. I got half of a nice yellow onion here. And we're going to dice this guy up too. You can hear those mushrooms sizzling over there, so that's a good sign. And again, dicing an onion, we're going to keep it attached at the stem so it holds it together. And then we're going to run the knife parallel to the cutting board. Just make a couple cuts like that. And then we're going to go down. Watch your fingers. And then we move our knife down there. We've got some nice dice of onion here. Okay. We'll finish it off. And we're going to get all these guys in the pot, ready to go. This is a one-pot meal, which is also really good for everybody, especially me, because I have to do the dishes most of the time. Now with these vegetables, we don't have to really cook the dickens out of them. We just want to soften them up a little bit. But if our pan's nice and hot, which it is, it's not going to take very long for these guys to come together. This is just going to be a couple minutes and it's going to be ready to go. Now we're going to season it right now too, because we want to kind of develop some layers of flavor. We don't want to just add a bunch of salt at the end and a bunch of pepper at the end and hope it works out okay. We're going to season as we go and make sure we got some good flavors developing. Always cracked pepper too. Don't use the pre-ground stuff. Much better flavor. And we're just going to kind of let those go in here. And again, we're just going to kind of soften them up and let them go. See there? You got some nice color. Okay. So we're going to let that go. For the pasta, traditionally we're always using some macaroni, the white stuff. These days a lot of people like to use the whole wheat pastas. It's a little healthier for you. Trying to stay away from those bleached flours and things like that. So I've got a whole wheat rotini here, a nice corkscrew shaped pasta, cooked to al dente. And this is basically just one of those boxes. It was a 13-ounce box of pasta that I pre-cooked. And we're going to add that in just a second. The other thing we're going to add is a little bit of roasted garlic, probably a couple tablespoons. I like to use roasted garlic because it's more of a subtle flavor. You can add it at any point in the recipe because it's already cooked. And what I like to do is make a big batch of this stuff. I'll boil the garlic and some olive oil in the oven until they're nice and soft. Throw them in a blender, blend it up, and then put them in containers in the freezer and pull it out as I need it. So I'm spooning out a little garlic instead of trying to mess around with some garlic cloves on the cutting board. And it makes it a little nicer that way. The other thing that we're going to do, since we're taking away fat, cheese, stuff that has flavor, we got to add something in place of it. I'm going to add a healthy amount of some fresh basil. And we're going to do the fresh basil right at the end. You don't want to put it in right now because we'd cook all the nice flavor out. But what we're going to do is we're going to layer them all together, all these nice big basil leaves. And I'm going to run my knife through it and just cut them into little strips like this. Oh, little ribbons, basil ribbons. And I'm not going to cut it any more than that because I don't want to lose all that flavor on the cutting board. But what we're going to do is when the goulash is ready to go, we're going to throw it in right at the last minute and stir it in, and the heat from everything is going to kind of activate all the flavor to it. And it's going to really smell delicious and taste great too. Our veggies are softened up real nice here. So I'm going to go ahead and add the pasta in. We're going to want to season it again just a little bit. I'm using kosher salt. I don't like to use the refined salt. Sea salt would be fine. And we want to stay away from table salt. Now this isn't going to have that thick tomatoey sauce like we're used to. It's going to be a little more brothy. And what I'm using is a nice vegetable stock. This is actually an organic, salt-free, really nice, rich veggie stock. I'm just keeping the meat out of it altogether. If you wanted to use a chicken stock, you could certainly do that. If you wanted that thick tomato sauce, you could use a nice canned tomato. Check the label, make sure it's something that doesn't have a lot of preservatives and stuff like that in it, and you'd be ready to go. Now as far as the cheese goes, since we're not going to use a bunch of shredded mozzarella and make it real ooey gooey, I've just got a nice grated Parmesan here. And what we're going to do, I'm going to plate some up for you in a second, and instead of adding it all in and melting it and doing that kind of thing, we're just going to sprinkle some nice grated Parmesan on the top. We could also use grated Asiago, anything that's a nice dry hard cheese that's got lots of flavor. The more flavor it's got, the less we have to use, so we don't have to use quite so much. I don't want to forget my roasted garlic, so I'm going to come back over here and we're going to put a couple of good-sized tablespoons in. Of course you can adjust that depending on your personal taste. Our kids love garlic, so we're going to load them up on it. And we're just going to stir that in. Now the pasta's already cooked, so basically we're just reheating it a little bit in that broth and getting that stirred in there. And check that out. Lots of color, looks awesome. And then we're going to season it again to finish it up. And this stuff is pretty much ready to go. Super quick. If you wanted to stew it a little bit longer, you could do that, but for us, we got to go pick our kids up in a little bit, so we need something on the go, and it's super healthy, lots of flavor, and it's hot, it's ready to go. So we're going to spoon some up. You can see all the veggies we got in there. We could do zucchini, we could dice up some eggplant and cook that. Any kind of superfood that you want to do will work. And then we're going to add our fresh basil. I like to sprinkle it right on the top. Then when you're getting ready to dig in and eat it, you kind of stir it in and it really releases all that flavor like we talked about. And then a nice sprinkle of a little grated Parmesan. And there you go. Meatless goulash. Ready to go. Thanks a lot.